Culture 365 presents Glow, a greater level of wellness. With your co-host, Mia Alman, founder of Women of Culture 365 and Glow, a certified life, health, and nutrition coach. Sophia Green, producer and host of the Sophie G Radio Show, bringing you words of wisdom. Don Hewitt, certified holistic health coach on how to treat the whole body. And Lady Q, founder of Sisters of Faith and Pink 360, an evangelist and certified life purpose coach, bringing you spiritual advice. Join us as we go Facebook Live every third Tuesday at 7 p.m. to talk about the mind, body, and soul, a conversation you do not want to miss. Please bring your questions as you discover the power of your glow.
Hi, I'm Coach Mia. Thank you all for tuning in to Glow 365, our Greater Level of Wellness TV show. It's March, and the title of our show is Women Rising and Reaching Back, presented by Women of Culture 365. I want to say a special thank you to Facebook and Instagram for my birthday wishes today. Thank you all so much. And Sophie G, she's not here with us today. You know, she's busy working, but she will be back next month. But again, sister, thank you for my birthday wish. I want to remind you all to like and subscribe on YouTube at Official Women of Culture, and Women Culture is spelled with a K. There you can watch all our previous show and current shows as well. Now, today is a very special day. We have a special guest on the show. But to get started, let me introduce my esteemed co-hosts. We have Coach Dawn Hewitt, a certified holistic life coach, and Coach Lady Q, certified life and a relationship coach. Coach Dawn, before we get into the specifics of our show this evening, there's something special about today, is there not?
Absolutely, Mia. Today is International Women's Day, which has been occurring for well over a century, with the first International Women's Day gathering which happened in 1911 and was supported by over 1 million people. And of course, we must also recognize that on this day, the courageous women of Ukraine, whether they are shepherding their children, attempting to escape a war zone, or sheltering them in place while under invasion and assault. International Women's Day is a global day celebrating the social, economic, and cultural, political achievements of women. The day also marks a call to action for accelerating women's equality. Not only is it Women's History Month, it's another special day, is it not, late Coach Lady Q?
Definitely, Coach Don. Today we are celebrating International Women's Day and would like to also wish our executive producer and host, Coach Mia, a very happy birthday. Who personifies the title of an international woman born Jamaican and Canadian and a mixed cultural heritage from her parents who are Jamaican and Costa Rica, and grandparents and great grandparents who are Bangladesh, and Scots. This month is also very special as well, is it not?
Yes, Lady Q. This month, you know, Women of Culture celebrates women from all over the world, and it's no exception to celebrating Women's History Month in March. The 2022 Women's History Month theme is Providing Healing, Promoting Hope, is a tribute to the senseless work of caregivers and the frontline workers during this ongoing pandemic, and also a recognition of thousands of ways that women of all cultures have provided both healing and hope throughout history. But before we get started, let's take a quick break. And when we return, we'll be reaching out to our guest, Michelle Gardner, halfway around the world, who's definitely a woman who is both rising and reaching back. And she's also our KO Magazine 2022 Woman of Culture Ambassador. So let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
This is Stacey Elevated Wilson, and you're listening to Star, straight talk with amazing reality. Join in every Thursday at 8 p.m. on WOKB 1680 AM and 100.7 FM in Kissimmee, and listen to Miss Jackson. She is for real with Michaela and Julian.
Welcome back. I am delighted to celebrate International Women's Day and also honored to have this special guest, Michelle Gardner, born in Melbourne, Australia, and now resides in the beautiful southern atmosphere of Southeast Asia of Bali, Indonesia. She's also the founder and director of Aspire Series. Michelle, welcome to Glow.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me. And happy birthday as well.
Thank you so much. Let's remind the audience that while the sun has set in Florida here, sunny Florida, Michelle has already greeted sunrise, and it's already tomorrow in Bali, Indonesia.
Yeah, first thing in the morning.
Hope you're having beautiful weather there.
Yes,
Awesome.
nice and warm.
Now, it's such an honor, to be a part of your platform or 55 Faces of Women that you shared, my little story. Michelle, can you tell us a little bit about that project?
Yeah, so 55 Faces is, I suppose it quite literally is the face of the Aspire series at the moment, and at the forefront. And sometimes the best ideas begin really organically and almost accidentally, and I feel like 55 is a testament to that. It's a big part of my work background is around sharing story and using it to advocate for social change and social justice and social impact. And that is kind of where 55 started. So it began with me sharing one story a day for 55 days of women basically as diverse as I could attract at the time. And women from all over the world were involved. I had women from 15 to 75 involved, although this week I'm going to be highlighting 2 8-year-olds. So that's really exciting. And it's, women from all kinds of different walks of life, different backgrounds, different religions, different cultures, and all answering the exact same 3 questions around themselves and their lives. So, what is it that the first one is, who are you in the world? Second is, what is the story that you would like rewritten or next written for women? And what is the story that you're next writing for yourself? So it's since then grown. The original set ended up having 65 women, and now I think we're very close to reaching 100 women that we've highlighted and profiled since August last year.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah. And we're now looking at publishing it into 2 books as well. So one will be Women Globally, and the other one will be isolated to one particular culture, which is going to be Balinese women.
Awesome. That is so amazing. And again, I am honored to be a part of that. Now, you spent 15 years working in Australian child protective and community sector, supporting children, young people, and families that are vulnerable with life experiences. Please share a little bit about some of the challenges that you faced.
Yeah, gosh, it's one of those questions. It's like, where do you start? I remember when I first started in child protection, I was 22. I was incredibly young, incredibly green, straight out of uni, and which is college in Australia, university. And, I remember there being this saying that if you can survive 6 months in child protection, that you're basically set up in your career for life. And which I think is probably very accurate. I was in doing direct child protection for 2.5 years. So I was doing a lot of the first visits, so getting notifications and going out and visiting families and making assessments and decisions about what's right for them and what's needed to keep those children safe. And at times going to court and all of that kind of stuff as well. And from there, I did some long-term casework with kids that have been involved with foster care. And from there, I ended up working in an organisation for quite a long time where I was helping young people to share their voice and their experience about what it's like growing up in child protection, and to help workers and other service providers understand how they can better build rapport and work with young people. And on the other side of that, helping them to have a voice and a platform with ministers, commissioners, CEOs around what can be done to create change at a higher level. So, I mean, I've pretty much my whole life I've been driven by curiosity. So one of the biggest questions that I had during that time was how we can hear the voice of young people and how we can really genuinely hear it and how we can really hear anyone's voice. And I guess you can only ever hear or understand someone's voice from what they're sharing in that moment, and you get a tiny snippet of what they're able to tap into at that time. So that was one of the challenges, and just one of the questions that I turned over in my mind a lot. In terms of more broadly, when I think about some of the families that I used to work with and some of the young people that I've worked with over the years as well, there's this big sense of, where do we start? Where do we begin in repairing and healing and transforming some of the stuff that a lot of people, and in some way all of us to different degrees, have experienced, not only in our own lives but also in our heritage and in our ancestry, and often for generations and generations. And often that presents in so many complex ways. It's not usually like one issue or another issue. It's often like quite a complex thing. It's not just mental health or parenting stuff or any of those kind of things. It's like, where do we start? And I think I don't know if there is like one exact answer around any of that, but I think a sweet spot that I found that I really resonated with was in that space of giving people the opportunity to at least begin talking and at least begin sharing. And I think that is something that's been quite characteristic through my time involved with child protection and beyond. Yeah.
Wow. Michelle, I think that's absolutely amazing to be able to give voices to young people, because there's so many that are going through things and need that voice. And there's so many different challenges that we deal with in the world. And right now, one of the major challenges that we've had to deal with in the last couple of years is COVID. So, what were the special challenges that you've had to face on your side of the world dealing with COVID, and how are you doing now?
Oh gosh, do you want a story?
Sure, please, by all means.
So I'm from Melbourne. I had never left Melbourne for more than 4 months in my life, and I decided that I was packing up and leaving and packing up my entire life at the end of January 2020, and I was going traveling, and I wanted to travel the Silk Road. And my plan was to begin in Bali and to just settle in Bali for a bit for 5 weeks and then to travel onwards. So I arrived in Bali and I left at something said to me, "You're home." And I was like, no, I'm going traveling. And I then moved on to, I had a wedding at the 1st of March in Penang, and something was like, "Don't leave." And I was like, no, I'm going traveling. And then I landed in Vietnam. It would have been about the 5th of March. And I was like, now I'm going to plan my trip. And I just watched like dominoes as the whole world shut down. And I just went, oh my gosh, do you have any idea how long it's taken me to pack up my life?
Wow.
And yeah, oh gosh. what is going on? And so anyway, my family said, well, are you coming home? And I said, no, it's taken me so long to get to this point. So I decided to return to Bali. And and basically I've been here since. It's been over 2 years.
Wow.
So, yeah. And I mean, how has that looked? Well, how has it looked? So in Melbourne, I'll start with Melbourne, where I came from. That has had the toughest lockdown conditions in the world. So I think they spent not the entire, but a bulk of 2 years in lockdown, and very, very, very tough conditions posed around that, and a lot of segregation amongst people. I know that's characteristic in the world, but it's something that has been very loud and very vocalized there. And also, Melbourne is a city that's very diverse, very eclectic, very artsy. People are out and about a lot and living life. And it was rated number one top city to live in the world for 8 years straight. And then COVID happened and the whole place shut down.
Wow.
And I can't even begin to explain just watching Facebook and being in Bali, and it's like, wow, I'm in this beautiful space, but then watching Facebook and all of the things and just seeing the impact of that in terms of people's mental health and well-being. And it was really, really full on and really confronting in a lot of ways. On the flip side of that, being in Bali, Bali is quite a small island. It's still considered, I think it's still considered a third world country in a lot of respects, a third world, place. And Bali has built itself up as a tourist destination, and that basically tourism has contributed to between 80 to 90% of the income that comes into the island. So after 2 years with Bali being locked down, it's been a very, very tough place to be for a lot of people. It largely has been supported in some respect by the people from the Western world that have chosen to stay here. But it has obviously been a very tough and confronting time for a lot of people here as well. So, and that's both people that have come here and set up some kind of business or some kind of lifestyle, but especially for the Balinese people. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So, Michelle, I was listening. I'm from the developing world as well, and from Jamaica. So I completely identify with what the Balinese must be going through with living in a country that finds most of its income comes from tourism. So. So thank you for sharing that. I think it's really good for Westerners, for all of us who live in the West, to have an idea of what's going on in other places in the world. So you are the founder and director of the Aspire series, which is a movement and platform for women sharing their stories. What inspired you to create the Aspire series, and what is its purpose?
Gosh. There are so many different layers to Aspire, so many. I would say that my work background has been a big part of it. So basically the way that Aspire has been created and modelled in a lot of ways is off an organisation that I used to work for. And it's been, over time, I've asked a lot of questions around, what are the things that I really feel create change individually for people? And the three key pieces that I saw to that, well, there's many, many more, but I'll start with three, which I really firmly believe around connection. So connection to self, connection to our own ancestry heritage, where we fit in the world, and also connection to one another and our stories and our experiences. And then a sense of expression, so being able to put a voice to that and to be able to speak boldly, to make decisions and choices and things for our lives that actually align with us. And then thirdly is around leadership, so being able to use that for the betterment of something bigger than ourselves and something that contributes to change in some way. So in terms of the purpose of Aspire actually started on a dance floor studio in Melbourne as a series of women's circles. And since then, it has shifted and morphed in a number of ways. And if you had told me 3 years ago when I first began it that 55 would be a thing and I'd be publishing books and all of this kind of stuff, and like ideas would be coming from all over the place around what's possible, I would have just, like, me on that dance floor studio would have been like, are you crazy? Like, what are you talking about? But then at the same time, a huge underthread of Aspire as well is that whole sense of aspiration and what is possible and what isn't possible but might possibly become possible as well. And, you know, this is another piece as well in terms of the space that is provided, or that I aim with the best of my ability to provide with Aspire, is that it consists of support, opportunity, and possibility. And I think that there are three really key things that need to exist in a space for us to kind of really, really blossom and bloom. So I just, you know, my word for this year is astonishment. And, you know, what is unfolding, and the energy and intention that has been planted is finally starting to really flourish. And I think that is the nature and the energy of Aspire. And, you know, last night I was asked around, you know, why community? And community is something that I think by nature, I feel like I am a community builder, and I love bringing people together. And I think that that's when change really happens, when you have very different people with very different backgrounds all in the same space, sharing and saying, you know what, this is me in the world. This is, you know, my experience of the world. I think that when we are in a space where, I think it's very easy to kind of say, you know, I want to be, and it seems to be something that's spoken about a little bit these days, you know, I want to be with like-minded people. But sometimes I think if we're around like-minded people so much, like, how we challenged and how we confront it, and what opportunity do we have to actually grow and expand and change within ourselves and for something bigger than that. Yeah.
That is so beautiful. You're an inspiration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Michelle, is absolutely amazing listening to your story of how Aspire began and the women coming together and being able to tell stories. So when you look in hindsight, even moving to the present time, what have been the greatest results of the Aspire series?
Gosh. As mentioned, like in the early days, it was this, I don't know, at the time they felt big, but now it feels quite small. But the power of bringing women together and having a space where they can just naturally open up and share, there is magic that unfolds in that doesn't actually, I'm wondering how to articulate it properly, that doesn't actually, it involves effort, but it doesn't involve effort, if that makes sense. The work is half done in that space already. So I feel like with now what has expanded with 55, I feel like that's an expansion of that, about a gazillion fold. So now the biggest win has been 55 to this point. And yeah, just, you know, currently I've got I've spoken to 35 Balinese. I've got the stories of 35 Balinese women, and that will very soon be 55. I've got all of the women waiting for their stories to be told, to be published in a book. And, you know, in Bali, I think we talk a lot about, you know, women need to have a stronger voice and so on and so forth and all of this kind of stuff. But when you think about a culture that is still quite, like one of the women that I spoke to, she said that she left Indonesia and she came back, I think it was in 2014. And she said that at that point, that was when she first heard any conversation about women's rights in Indonesia. So
Wow.
there are still parts of the world that are in a very different space. So, you know, in America and Australia, probably the UK, I'm imagining, where we're kind of like, we're quite vocal and there's been quite a lot of momentum behind these things. There are places where just giving a woman a space to say, hey, you know, how do you see yourself in the world? What is your experience of the world and what do you want women to know is really, really big. So sometimes it can kind of be like, yes, 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 we've got all these accolades and all of this kind of stuff. But so often the big wins are in the small moments. And I think it's really important not to ever forget that as well.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, I can't hear.
Hello and welcome. My name is Ronnie Walker. Allow me to introduce you to the MrRelationshipManCave.com website. Listen, gentlemen, today is not the day to show up halfway for yourself and for the woman you aim to please. Nutrition and mental health are important to fully experience a healthy and exceptional relationship. As a man, we want to make sure we have what is needed to start and finish strong. So go to www.MrRelationshipManCave.com and explore the possibilities.
Welcome back. And again, good evening to everyone in the U.S. and good morning to those of you that are in Bali and other parts of the world. Dawn, you have the mic.
Thank you, Mia. So Michelle, how important, in your opinion, how important is it for women to have role models and mentors? Who was yours and how did that person help you?
Gosh, you know, how would we get anywhere without role models? Like, in essence, you know, one of the things that I sometimes think about, and I think about this in terms of my own background as well, and also with the young people that I've worked with too, and also a lot of the women that I speak to, our families can have the very best intentions in the world. However, they can only teach us what they can teach us and take us as far as they are able to go themselves. At some point, we either need to have the experience of someone coming in from the outside who is able to help us learn and understand and open our minds up to different possibilities, or we need to leave that environment ourselves and explore and find those other people and role models that can offer us something more that can provide and open up our own worlds. And I think there's that side of it. And also when I think about my own role models, I think there's another side of it as well, which is more around nurturance as well. And that's that safety and that comfort provision as well. And I think there are different role models that provide different things at different times based on what we need. So when I think about like one of my earliest role models, I think of my grandma. So my mum had quite significant mental health issues when I was a child. And so there were obviously things that at times she wasn't able to provide very readily. However, my grandmother was the woman in a lot of ways who stepped into that space. But then when I think about my grandmother, if I was to, you know, want to build a business or want to take off on an adventure around the world, she wouldn't be the role model that I would look to for that at all. So she was brilliant at what she did, but at the same time, there have been many, many other people that have provided what has been needed to get to where I need to go, to get to where any of us need to go. I remember there being a point, I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, and this is some of the essence of where Aspire came from as well. I felt like I'd reached this point where I had taken all of my role models as far as I could, and I was like, okay, cool. Now where do I look to? Who do I look up to when I feel like, you know, I've kind of outgrown, in a way, the people that I had. And at that time, I had many, many, many questions around what it even means to be a woman in the world. And I didn't know where to go to answer them. At the time, I kept going to all these workshops and things, and I kept sitting in circles of women, and it got to the point where I was like, okay, I don't know if this is sustainable anymore. Maybe I could just start my own thing. And that is where the women's circles began, in complete honesty. So I think that we're each one another's teacher, and we're each one another's student as well. We learn from every single person that's around us. At some point, we grow and develop so much that we become our own teacher and student as well, and we're able to offer ourselves a little bit of that space as well, and we're able to see how we can be that for others as well. So, I mean, these days, I would say I probably look to professional mentors and those sorts of things a lot at the moment. And I've been seeking those out as well. However, I think it's really important that we don't underestimate our capacity to be each other's mentor, even if it's for a moment, even if it's for a lifetime. Mentors are absolutely everywhere, and there's something in every single story and every single person that we meet that we can learn from. You know, I have women who actually, I was speaking to a woman yesterday, a Balinese woman. I was sitting with her and we were collecting her story. And she said to me, you know, I'm just a simple woman. Like, I'm just a simple woman. I'm not even sure why you want me. I was like, well, you know what? You could have the best life experience. You could have the worst life experience, but there's gold and there's magic throughout it. And so we explored and we dug a little bit, and it turned out that I knew this, and this was how I met her. Her husband is very successful in what he does. And she was like, oh, you know, I support in the background. And I was like, hang on, would your husband be anywhere near as successful? They've had 25-year marriage. Would your husband be anywhere near as successful if you weren't that support? And she was like, oh, wait. It's like, yeah, like this is your success as well. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely true.
And then being able to also unpack that a little bit with her and go, well, you know, what creates a 25-year marriage that has created so much success within that? Like, that's something that a lot of people don't have, that level of success or that level of awareness these days. So there's obviously something really special in that. And that was a really interesting space to begin unpacking with her.
Yeah. That's beautiful. It reminds me of, you know, of my own experience, which is, I'm sure is a universal thing. Like you said, you have mentors at different phases in your life. And I think that if you are somebody who's looking for, or if you acknowledge the brilliance within, you know, all the different people that you meet, you know, you will find people who can guide you for that phase And I love the part where you said some of that should come from within as well, and that's definitely true. And it starts with acknowledging how smart the person is, like feeding their own, self-esteem, that they can mentor themselves to a certain extent.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, yeah. And it's something I've had so many conversations about this in the last couple of weeks around intuition and women's capacity to really tap in and tune in and to trust themselves and their own judgment and what's right for them, what's not right for them, and to not externalize that or put that in someone else's hands is incredibly important.
Absolutely. Well said.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing that. Definitely, we have to keep that bond of, sisterhood and just maintain that and, be able to talk to each other and inspire each other, support each other in all that we do. So, we can mentor, not only within the sister circle, but also others out there. Now, in maintaining, inner peace, how do you stay grounded in all that you do, spiritually when facing, inner conflict every day?
Yeah. There are a couple of things that initially come to mind. So first, in yoga, they talk about a sadhana, which is like a daily practice, and the importance of having a daily practice that kind of taps you in and tunes you in and directs you. And they also talk about like a drishti, which is a focus point. So something that's really big for me is taking the time in the morning to really just explore and kind of, I don't want to say evaluate or assess, but something to that effect. Be open to where I'm at and what it is that I need for that day and what it is that's actually going to take me to where I need to be. So for me, that looks like journaling. It looks like some kind of movement. It looks like really paying attention to what's going on in my day and if I have enough space. I think spaciousness is huge. I think it's so easy to just kind of go, I've got this many hours in a day, so I'm just going to cram it full of stuff. But is that actually beneficial and is that helpful? The fundamentals of, eating, sleeping, taking care of the basic things, like when life is busy, what can I pare back so that I can make sure that the basics are attended to? Because if I'm not paying attention to those, then everything is misaligned. I often have a word that I choose to focus on that day. So, and I'll just tap into that during the day. I like to write down what my goals are just to remind me of what the bigger picture is. A sense of peace. So there'll be times where I will just have a simple mantra of just breathe, just breathe, just breathe, ground yourself, feet are on the ground, draw my energy in, and head is held up high. And, everything else exists in space around that.
Beautiful.
Michelle, that is absolutely awesome. I think we all need those different elements in our life to help us to just ground us. And I am definitely a journaler, so I know what it is to journal and even take a moment to just breathe and then just be in the moment. And in this process that you do to have your inner peace and to be grounded, what do you do to maintain balance in your life?
Yeah, I love this question. I'm a Libran, so
Wow. Okay.
So by nature, I want balance. If I've gone too far off in one direction, I'll almost slingshot myself in the other direction until it re-navigates itself. Gosh, how do I maintain balance? I think those things are kind of interconnected in some way, spiritual connection and balance. And I think like that sense of, once again, the sense of creating spaciousness. I'm not sure why, but the last 6 months that has felt really big for me. It's like, yes, there are big things that we want to do in the world and awesome things that we want to do, but those things are only as meaningful as we are actually tapped in and in a great place to enjoy and appreciate those within ourselves. If we lose sight of that and we're out of alignment, or we're not actually tapped into the energy and the heart and soul connection and the openness in that space, then what is the point? Like, yes, we still get to achieve that thing, but if we're getting there in a way where we don't feel connected and it's not true of us, then whatever that end product is, it's almost going to be quite shallow in a way. And actually, I want to tell you a story. Can I tell you a story?
Sure. Sure.
We've got time. We've got spaciousness. There's this surfer from Australia. I heard her speak once. Her name is Lane Beachley. And she was #1 best surfer in the world, woman surfer in the world, 3 times. And I think she had quite a rough upbringing in a lot of ways, but she became #1 in the world once, and she was like, okay, cool. And then she was like, now I'm going to do it again, and now I'm going to do it again. And after the 3rd time, she was like, I think I'm enough now. The whole time up until then, she was like, I'm not enough, I'm not enough, I'm not enough, I'm not enough. Like, that was the thing going around in her world. She's like, I'm not going to be enough until I'm first in the world. I'm not going to be enough until I'm first in the world the 2nd time. I'm not going to be enough until I'm first in the world the 3rd time. Then the 3rd time, she almost had this like collapse, and she just went, when am I ever going to be enough? Yeah. So yeah, I think that, balance is being, it feels so cliche, but I want to say it's whole. It's being whole as we achieve the thing and as we move towards the thing. The other thing I want to say on that as well is that sometimes balance is imbalance as well. So sometimes, there is going to be a point where work is #1 and other things drop to the side to create space for that. And sometimes it's going to be that family has to have a much bigger chunk of that puzzle for whatever reason, and other things fall to the side. But the thing is that balance is we're never entirely in balance. We're always kind of fluctuating in and off that center point in a lot of ways. So I feel like that's important to recognize and understand as well, and to know where that center point is to come back to, and to never lose sight of that, and to recognize, yes, I'm off point now, but there will be a point where I come back to that as well.
Wow. Thank you so much. I definitely I personally appreciate that, because I was dealing with I call it enoughness, that space of enoughness within me, and had to come to the place of realizing I know I am enough. So I definitely appreciate that.
Yes, thank you so much, Michelle. And we definitely have to give ourselves permission to, not to just to love ourselves, but to say, yeah, we're enough, and we're amazing. We don't give ourselves that enoughness, as Lady Q says, that, hey, we can be everything and anything we want to be. But, as you see, I love celebrating my Women of Culture 365, especially, when we share self-care tips on how we find our power of 365, within the mind, body, and soul. Michelle, what are some of your self-care regimens?
Yeah, I talking about, connecting it to balance and some of the other things we've spoken about. I care a lot about feeling really well attuned to my body. So yes, I can eat the things. Yes, I can do all of those things, but I feel like there's a deeper and deeper and deeper awareness that runs alongside that as well. That if we're attuned to it, that then gives us the space to create much better choices within our lives. And I think that there is a lot of wisdom in the body that is deeper and deeper and deeper than we could ever know or understand. So for me, dance and yoga and walking and all of those kind of things that connect me with this human vessel as it exists are really, really important for me, and in terms of my self-care and my well-being, and that I have a good and positive relationship with my body. So, and I don't often, sorry. Anyway, yeah, I just don't. I'm not sure if we often look at self-care in that way. I think it's I think often we can kind of say, yeah, you know, I go to the spa and I do the this and I do the that, but I feel like there are deeper and deeper layers of that we can look at. The other thing I want to say on that as well is that I once worked with this young woman she was an Aboriginal young woman. She was a teenager, and I was asked to coach her around self-love. And it was interesting because as we dug into, you know, her purpose and what she sees as being really important for her more and more, she wanted to be a role model for other young women who had who were Aboriginal as well, and to be able to, you know, shine a light and pave a way for them as well. And I was like, that's awesome. And I was like, so how does this fit in with self-love, and how does this fit into self-care and how you take care of yourself? And as we unpacked it more, she came to realize that if she doesn't take care of herself, she can't step into that space, and she can't be that leader or that role model, and she can't actually create that change that she wants to create. And all of a sudden, when her own sense of self was connected to something bigger and something that was a higher sense of order, all of a sudden taking care of herself became so much easier. So we can only give or contribute as much as we actually have available to us. So taking care of self is just as important, if not more important, than anything else that we do from that respect. So, yeah, that's all I have to say on that.
Wow, thank you for that, Michelle, because we definitely have to take care of self, have balance in our life and things of that nature. So, what role does spirituality play in your success?
I love this question. I feel like you could do a whole session just on this question, on any of these questions. Spirituality. So, you know, the more that time goes on, the more I realize and appreciate that those two things are not separate at all. There's one of the things that one of the young women, the Balinese women taught me about was this thing called taksu. And basically taksu is this sense of, it's used to talk about art, but I think it's relevant to life as well. It's this sense of there is energy that comes in from above and it sits in your heart and soul. And then at some point it will go through your arms and come out through your hands, and it will be contributed to your art in the world, whatever that is. And it's this daily practice of how you continue to do that and give that to the world. So I think that in a way makes me think of how spirituality and success are connected. I tend to think, particularly from my yoga background, I think a lot about spirituality as being life force as well. So it's a sense of energy that we cultivate and that we attract and that we draw from. And we have a choice in what we do with that. And we have a choice in how we make use of that in the world. And then that, however we choose to use that, that expands and it multiplies. So I can't even remember the original question. So how is that relevant in my life? I think it is life. I think success is life, and I think that spirituality is life. And I don't think that either of those two things are separate. And the more that I go on, and the more that I experience and I see and I tap into that energy myself, the more that I see the truth in that.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing that. And, definitely when it comes to spirituality and, success, I definitely, do a lot of meditating and praying, for just finding balance and just seeking that wisdom, because it definitely plays a role in our success and how, we wake up every morning and what we want to accomplish and everything. So yeah, spirituality is definitely number one regiment, in my daily routine. But let's take a quick break, and when we return, we'll talk a little bit more about finding purpose. Michelle being KU Magazine 2022 Woman of Culture Ambassador, and what does Women History Month really means to her. We'll be right back. The Jamaican American Association of Central Florida proudly presents Jamaica's 60th Independent Scholarship and Debutantes Award Gala on August 6, 2022 at the Rosen Plaza Hotel from 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. Guest speaker will be Dr. Dwayne Dice, CEO of Education Solution International. Co-MCs are Mr. Lewis Witter and Miss Adriana Clark of Caribbean Rhythms Radio. Dinner served at 7:30 p.m. Music and dancing by DJ Charlie Brown and Caribbean Groove Band. Tickets are $75 by calling 407-467-1741 or 321-439-2130 and also 407-292-3719. Join us for a night of excellence and elegance as we celebrate Jamaica's Diamond Jubilee. For more information, please visit online at www.jaaocf.com. Welcome back. Lady Q, you have the mic.
Well, there are many that struggle with finding their purpose or passion. What advice, Michelle, would you give the woman who chooses to pursue a professional career?
Yeah. My first thought that comes up is actually a question in terms of, is this a woman who feels connected to her purpose and passion, or is it just generally? But when there was something that I heard a long time ago, that what it is that we enjoy doing when we're 10 years old is something that we will enjoy doing for our entire lives. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. And, I think there's a lot of wisdom that we innately have and that we grow up with, that we at some point are tapped out from. So my first point of wisdom for women would be to never lose sight of that, and to never lose sight of that innate curiosity, and that, as I've mentioned before, that intuition and that desire, and to allow your sense of drive and motivation to come from that place. And that place first and foremost, regardless of how that fits with the external world, regardless of whether that makes sense, and regardless of what anyone else thinks or feels about that. Something that has been really important for me in terms of, the way that I've navigated the world and moved about the world, is that innate sense of curiosity, and asking questions, and just getting curious and being curious, and allowing myself to be guided by that, and to go down the rabbit holes and things that moves through. So at times that has meant, saying no to opportunities that on the surface look like great opportunities. But is that my opportunity? It might be a great opportunity and it might look great, but is it my opportunity? And is it what's best for me? And it might be that the path for me is a way that is a little bit outside the center. So connecting with that as well. I very strongly feel that we need to be thinking outside the box and looking outside the box. There are boxes for very good reasons. However, change doesn't happen unless we think outside what already exists. And I think magic unfolds, particularly as women, with the innate capacity that we have to create. Like we're mothers by nature, and that doesn't only mean mothering or birthing a child. It can be mothering and birthing anything in our capacity, whether it's birthing a plant, a garden, a monarchy, an organization, whatever it is, there is absolute magic in that. And when we operate and exist from that space, and we don't put limits around ourselves around what the external think or believe, and we allow ourselves to go into those spaces of just being curious and asking questions around what's possible if I put this and this and this together and that hasn't been thought of before, and I allow myself to delve into that space and to go there and to create from that space what could become possible, what could be new or hasn't existed before, that maybe birthed from that space. So I would love for women, regardless of where they're at, to be able to create from that space, but also to put a voice behind that as well, and to encourage other women to also operate from that space.
That's such an incredible answer, and you're putting me, you're bringing me back to a memory where I had a therapist advise me that even though you have a job that you don't like or whatever, you have several passions. You're a very creative person. You need to dedicate some time every single day to writing, sewing, knitting, whatever it is that you can get your hands on, because that is what is going to make you whole. Despite the fact that you're not making money from doing those things, don't put them down in a way just because you're not making an income from them. They are healing to you. And I that's what I was hearing in what you were saying. So thank you for that. And I just wanted to piggyback off of that and ask you why the celebration of Women's History Month is important to you.
Yeah. It's funny. We don't have celebration of Women's History Month in Australia. We have International Women's Day. And it's kind of like, you'll see like the odd post or whatever, but I think it's a much bigger thing in America. And through 55, I'm actually learning a lot more about American culture. It's quite entertaining in some ways. But overall, in history, there have been so many different evolutions of women and what it means to be a woman in the world. And I feel like there was a time where women did a lot of work and a lot of the back end work for us to exist in the way that we do now. And we have so many opportunities and choices and ways of existing that have never been possible before, or never been as openly celebrated. And yes, there are still a lot of challenges, so many injustices, so many things that need to change in the world. However, we are so lucky that we get to stand on the shoulders of so many women who did the real hard work. And, there was a time and a place where, women were jumping up and down, and there was there was bra burning, there were all the things just to even be noticed. And there was a time where women were in this super strong sense of power, and they were building their careers and taking on all the kids and doing all of the things. And then there was a time where their daughters have looked at their mums and said, you know what, that was a lot of work and mum was really burnt out. I'm not sure that that's my version of power and feeling empowered as a woman. And I feel like we're coming into another evolution where we are able to come from a place of creation and a place of, well, what is it? What is the world that I want to look like? And I think that is a more softer and beautiful, beautiful space to operate from. And when that question came up with 55 around what is the story you would like next rewritten for women, that was the original context of that question. And I had several women who said to me, you know what, I don't actually want a story to be rewritten, because that's insinuating that there's something wrong with something that has already existed. But we wouldn't be here without that story already being written. So that's why I changed the context of that question to, what is the story you would like next written? What's the next story for women? And I think it's a really beautiful space to be able to, I feel like we're at a new opening of being able to answer and make choices around how we answer that question. And I think that Women's History Month or International Women's Day is a real testament to that.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Michelle. And I hope one day that Women History Month is also celebrated Austria and other countries as well, and not just in the U.S. But as this year's, KO Magazine Women of Culture 365 Australia and Bali ambassador, how does that feel in terms of inspiring other women like yourself from your birthplace, and also, to residing in Bali?
Can you please repeat the question? The second half of it.
Being KO Magazine Woman of Culture Australian Bali ambassador, what does that mean to you in terms of, being from your birthplace of Australia and also now living in Bali, to inspire other women like yourself?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I'll connect this back to the, bringing women with you component as well. I believe that we can only take other people as far as we're prepared to go ourselves. And when we open a door, we don't only open a door for ourselves, we open a door for anyone else who we choose to bring through that door as well, or who chooses to follow us through that door. So, and I feel quite strongly around this with a lot of Aspire as well. It's about something bigger. It's about, there's a piece of my story in it. There's a piece of your story in it. There's a piece of the next woman's story in it. But when we each gather together, we can be successful as a collective. We can bring each other along and have a stronger voice because we're in that space together. So, yes, I might be the Australian ambassador for this year. Next year, I might introduce you to the next Australian ambassador. And I would do that so proudly. And I would so happily say, you know what, this needs to be your next woman from this space. And I would so happily put her on that platform and give her that limelight as well, because there is no difference between her and me. And I feel like there is something really, really beautiful in being able to say that. And something really, really heart-opening. And that's the kind of stuff that needs to be at the forefront of what we do. It's like, yes, there's a platform. Yes, I get to stand on it, but it's not only me. You get to stand there too.
Definitely. As you're saying that, our theme, women rising and reaching back, and you're just reaching back and passing the torch to the next one coming up. And I definitely look forward to the next ambassador from Australia or Bali. We welcome them all. Now we're getting to the close of our show. Lady Q, can you share a little bit words of wisdom and just wrap everything up?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. First, I would like to say thank you to Michelle sharing the Aspire series and the depths of 55 faces. Like, that's absolutely amazing, first and foremost. But what I would like to share with the audience for words of wisdom is to keep in mind as women, we all have a story to tell. We all have something to share with another woman that will help grow them, that will help empower them, that will inspire them, that would even help build them up. So don't allow whatever story that rests inside of you to stay inside of you. And remember to that as we continue this walk, to stay in a place of wholeness and being enough throughout your life. Creating that space that you need to create, not overfilling your life with things, and to take a moment to stop and breathe, as Michelle had said earlier, because again, there's so much that we have inside of us. There's so many labels, so to speak, that we function under, being mother, wife, different labels, the professions that we work under, the organizations that we work in, and even in every aspect of life that we go through as women, there's something to share with another woman to help another woman out. And so the question that I would have, that I would love to leave with you, what type of story that you have that will impact the next woman, that will help build her, grow her, inspire her just to be better, or just to add on to who she is.
Thank you so much, Lady Q. And Michelle, would you like to share quick final words before we close out?
Hmm. Gosh, I'm not sure.
If someone would like to be a part of, your 55 Faces, how can we connect with you? You would like to share
Yeah.
that?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so I do have a 55 Faces Facebook group. There are about 90 stories in there now that you can scroll through and check out. And also the Aspire Series Instagram as well, so you can jump on there too. We are, gosh, that's an old picture. We are. We are currently putting together the book. So the book is about 3/4 full, and the global book. So if there is anyone who would love to be profiled and to be shared and to have your story as a part of the book, I would absolutely love to hear from you as well.
Thank you so much, Michelle, again, for being our guest on the show. And we wish you well. And thank you just for, waking up early, because I know it's, 8 a.m. or 8:30 a.m. where you're at. So I definitely appreciate you, logging on as well. Now, please join the conversation on the next Glow show on Tuesday, April 12th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Our featured guest will be Marcus Boyd for bringing awareness to Autism Month, which is in April. He shares beyond the pages of his life, and you'll discover that he's an award-winning super producer, multi-instrumentalist, rapper, composer, and an autism activist. And he was actually featured in KO Magazine in 2020, the June, July, August issue. So if you'd like to check it out and read some of his stories that we did on him, visit kuomagazine.com. And I would definitely like to thank Michelle again for being here, being KO Magazine 2022 Woman of Culture Australian Ballet Ambassador, and celebrating, International Women's Day with us today. And also, I would like to thank my co-producers, Dawn, Lady Q, and Sophie G, and as well as our technical director, Kathleen Murray Love, and Kujatelli Quayle Cooge, which we know him as Cooge itself, for making us look fabulous on the show, and you, the viewers. I am Coach Mia, coming to you from Ocoee, Florida. Thank you all for tuning in to Glow 365 virtual show. Until next time, stay safe and well, and continue to find your glow within the mind, body, and soul.
Hey, this is your girl, Coach Mia, and I'm inviting you to check out KUO Magazine's January, February, March 2022 issue. We're celebrating Women Rising and Reaching Back, featuring Nigerian storyteller, story teacher, and creativity coach Doris Ariel on the cover, along with 5 other amazing women who are an author, an advocate, life coach, self-empowerment educator, 2-time breast cancer survivor, and there's so much more inside this issue to see. Please visit us online at kuomagazine.com. Also, like and subscribe on YouTube at Official KUO Magazine. Thank you, and see you soon.